Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After our adventure in Runebound last week, we're headed back to a game that we haven't played for quite a while, but I wanted to get back on the channel. We're playing Nemo's War by Victory Point Games. Inspired by the famous 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne, we are taking on the role of Captain Nemo and the Nautilus, essentially exploring the world, depending on whatever objective we've picked up. And that is actually the objective that we've picked up for this game. Our goal is to explore. A few things that we need to set up. We also need to set up the starting Nautilus upgrades. We do start with the Hydro Drive, since we are playing on Sailor difficulty. There's Sailor, Officer, and Captain. Easy, medium, and hard, basically. Each time we perform a move action, we can move the Nautilus up to 2 consecutive oceans. By compressing water taken in at the ship's bow and shooting it back into the ocean at an increased velocity from the ship's stern like a jet, the Nautilus could make an amazing 20 knots on the surface for an extended time. We've got 4 more upgrades that we might be able to purchase. First up, we've got reinforced armor that I believe is going to cost... I've got to remember the layout of these ship upgrades. Actually, first question is, when do we gain ship upgrades? We gain them in... It's not the placement phase, but... Let's see, I'm looking here. Okay, so that's the cost in salvage ship tokens, so we need 4 to get the reinforced armor. Attacking warships receives a +1 dice roll modifier to all attack dice rolls. I'll go through the flavor text when we actually pick it up. Next card that we might get is the Guild's deck that would cost us 2. Immediately select 1 set-aside upgrade card of your choice and place that as an available upgrade. During each lull turn, also place 1 gemstone on available, or if available, on the next empty space on the salvage track if it's not full. Each such gemstone counts as 1 salvage point. Next possible upgrade, is prize crew quarters for 2. Instead of placing a sunken ship token as salvage, you may place it on this card. After each rest action, successful or not, you may discard one of them to train, in essence gain, 1 crew resource. And finally, our last upgrade at the start of the game is a double hull for 3. Gain an additional +1 dice roll modifier when exerting your hull resource. Also, ignore all 6s when rolling to apply damage to the Nautilus. So some potentially useful stuff. We've also got our 6 crew members that we can exhaust for additional resources if we need additional resources, or some kind of one-off effect if we need to stave off a disaster. So that's what those are for. I never found out when we get to possibly upgrade. Little frog in my throat this morning. Let's see, that's a combat example. That's still not explaining when they get to upgrade. Let's see, sunken ships. Sunken ships is tonnage. Oh, can be spent during a refit action. Okay, that's what that's for. Alright, good to know. So we have to take a refit action to be able to get an upgrade. So I think with that being said, we are all set to get into this game, so let's jump right in. First up, we draw a card from the Adventure deck, and it's Act 1. The facts relating to this apparition entered in various logbooks agreed in most respects as to the shape of the object or creature in question, the untiring rapidity of its movements, its surprising power of locomotion, and the peculiar life with which it seemed endowed. If it was a whale, it surpassed in size all those hitherto classified in science. Roll a die and place the Nautilus in the corresponding major ocean. Commence play with the next card. Roll only 2 white dice to begin each placement phase. So let's see where the Nautilus actually is going to start. And to do that, we need a single white die. Which I think for this game, I want to put the tower I'm trying to figure out the best place for it, because in theory, we're going to get stuff on the tonnage track, so I think I've got a smaller tower I can use for this game, so I will be right back. We'll use my smaller Cthulhu tower for this one, and I think I can put that down. I think I can put that down here a lot more easily. I will plan on putting the tableau as much as I can on that side. But let's roll and see where we're placing. Actually, I don't think I like that placement there because it's going to block off some of the map. I'm going to put it down. Actually, I can probably put it... Actually, looks like there's another space for the adventure deck over here, so I think we want that over here, and the gemstones are supposed to go on top of that. For now, I'll put the tower down up over here, somewhat out of the way. So we're going to roll to see where we're placing the Nautilus. We're placing it in 1, so we're placing it in the Western Pacific. So here is the mini of the Nautilus that we'll be using. That will go in the Western Pacific. So now we begin the game with the next card. We've got the Red Sea. The Greek and Latin historians do not speak favorably of the Red Sea. It is, he pretends, a sea subject to fearful hurricanes, strewn with inhospitable islands. I was having problems with that word for some reason. And which offers nothing good either on its surface or in its depths. Either pass, or you may take up to 2 discarded ship tokens, if available, and place them in empty salvage point boxes, if available, and then fail. So we don't have. So this is the first card of the game, which means it's essentially a nothing happening card. So we get a pass on that. Then we've got the placement phase. So we're rolling. We're actually not rolling. Okay, so we do have to roll for our actions here on the current act card. So it's 2 white dice. Okay. So we want to roll. So the difference between the two becomes our action points for the turn. That's a 6 minus 2, so we get 4 action points. All right, and then conduct ship placement using all dice rolled. So we place on... So we are going to be placing on the major oceans. We're going to be placing on the Eastern Pacific and the South Atlantic. And I believe the priority for those is we want more hidden ship tokens to go there. Trying to find the explanation on the placement phase. Okay, hidden ship placement using only, ignore the black die. Okay, so yeah, we need more ship tokens in the Eastern Pacific and the Indian Ocean are what get our hidden ship tokens. I was thinking of the 4 because that's what our action points are going to be for the round. Place a... Alright, that's a lull turn, which they are not. So placing ship tokens, okay. Perform them one at a time. For each placement, take a hidden ship token and place it in an open space. Okay, so we did have open spaces, which means you don't have to worry about anything else there. So now we move into our standard turn. So we did our ship tokens, and now we get to take our actions. So what do I want to do here Well, we do have our possible options. I think we are going to start off by searching for a treasure. So we're going to perform a search test down here, and we'll get the... Right, so we'll perform a search based on the result. Yeah. Form a search action. So we're going to spend one action to search. And we can exert a resource. I think we'll exert the crew for a +3. So we're essentially betting the crew on the success of the action. Yep, perform a search test. Right, we don't have any revealed ships in there. That's a 5 plus 3 is 8 because we exerted the ship. So we're suspected, which means we collect a treasure, but also gain 1 notoriety, which could be potentially problematic. So let's see. Actually, is there anything else that we need to be aware of? Doesn't look like it. I want to make sure that doesn't go crazy on us. So I think we, after successfully collecting that ocean's treasure, I don't think the suspected result lets us collect. So actually it does let us collect it, which means we'll go into, there must be a treasure available. Okay. So we're going to go into our treasure bag and pull a treasure out since we did obtain it from the looks of it. If I can ever get it out of the bag. We can retain this. X for a +1 DRM after the roll, or keep for 4 victory points. So that's a treasure that we've collected. We return this back to our supply of gemstones. Right. So roll 7. Resolving a test. Okay, so if you pass the test, so yes, we do reclaim the crew since we exerted that on the result. Okay, since we want to mostly be exploring, what else do we want to do here? We do have the option to move 2 oceans if we want to. So I think we are going to spend an action point to move 2 oceans. We're going to move into the North Atlantic, and then we're going to search there as well. And this time, I think we'll exert the crew again. Let's see if we have a little better result than we did the last time. That's a 7. Plus 3 is 10, since we exerted the crew for a +3 die roll modifier. That is enough to be a success, so we'll get another treasure out of it. Actually, I think X is discard that. So we'll pull this out. And it looks like it's just a straight 3 victory point treasure. So we'll return that back to our gemstone available bag. Now the question is, do I want to keep 1 action point in reserve for next turn, or do I want to do something else? Because I think I can keep 1 action point for each turn. I can save a maximum of 1. Alright, so what else do I want to try here? We might need an adventure card, but I don't think we're going to worry about that now. We don't have anything for... Let's see, try to gain a hull point, try to gain crew, search for treasure. I don't think there's anything else we can do right now, so I think we're going to call it a round there, and we'll loop back up to the event phase. So we'll draw a new event. We did get the crew back from exerting that again. So our next round starts with the Torres Straits. The Torres Straits are nearly 34 leagues wide, but they are obstructed by an innumerable quantity of islands, islets, breakers, and rocks. The Nautilus, floating betwixt wind and water, went at a moderate pace. Her screw, like a cetacean's tail, beat the waves slowly. Immediately after moving between the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific, we may perform this test for +1 notoriety. So it's a test 7, and we can choose to exert the hull. Pass to receive 2 action points this turn, even if the action point, even if it exceeds the action point maximum of 5. Fail, and we can't save 1 action this turn. At game's end, we fail if it's used. So where do I want to put that down? I'm just going to leave it here for the time being in our tableau. That way I know I've got it. Now let's go into the placement phase to see what we get. Well, to see where we place anything. All right, Ocean 5 and 3. So that is going to be that's the South and the North Atlantic where we are, and the European seas. And then we didn't roll doubles, so there's no lull turn to worry about, which means we go into our placement phase, continuing our turn, and we get 2 actions. We saved 1, so we actually have 3 actions. All right, so now we get to take our actions. I thought there was an action to try to identify some of these ships. You know what? I think we're actually going to try out the adventure action. So we're going to spend 2 actions to take an adventure off the adventure deck. Draw a card and either... Okay. So let's take a card off the top of the adventure deck. I set these up last night as Master Wishes. In Conseil, I had a seasoned specialist in biological classification. An enthusiast who could run with acrobatic agility up and down the whole ladder of branches, groups, classes, orders, families, genera, subgenera, species, and varieties. If Conseil is still in play, you may spend up to 3 actions to collect +1 treasure for each such action spent. Afterward, if or when Conseil is not in play, fail. At game's end, passive unused. So I'm going to leave that there, and then that will give me one of the treasures. Right. Yes, we'll collect a treasure for each. Collect a treasure token for each gem on the stack. So we actually get 2 treasures out of that, since there were 2 gemstones again. A modification from playing on Sailor difficulty. One, 2. I think I got 2 out. Yes, I did. And our 2 treasures this time are a straight 3 victory points, and one that we can discard to gain 1 hull or keep for 3 victory points. So we're definitely doing well in the treasure front. Then I actually am going to move for my last action point. And remember, I can move 2 spaces because of the hydro drive. I can move 2 consecutive oceans. I'm going to move into the European seas. And then actually I've got to... Hold on. Let's go from the South Atlantic into the Cape of Good Hope. I was going to try to go into the Indian Ocean from the Suez Canal, but I can't do that. Actually, do I want to go to the Cape of Good Hope? Yes, I do, just in case I need to go from the Indian Ocean to the Western Pacific and use the Torres Straits. So that puts me out of actions, and that will move us up. That'll move us into our next adventure. So we're back to the start of a new round. There are a couple ways that this game can end. I think, here we go. So, let's see, I know there was I thought there was a list here. Probably in, I've got a couple of the rule books here. Actually, there's a few ways. So yeah. We exhausted the last one of our resources. If our notoriety reaches the threshold shown for us, in our case, once we get up to 36 notoriety, we've failed on Explore. We're not playing with Nadine Dakar. Every ocean is completely full of ship tokens when a warship needs to be placed, or when we conduct the game's finale. Alright, let's see what our next adventure is off the deck. Davy Jones's Locker. After recovering from battle, the crew relaxed around Captain Nemo and referenced Davy Jones's locker. Angered at such superstitious nonsense, Nemo ordered the Nautilus to make increasing depth and speed until all feared the outcome of this rash response to mere sailors' banter. So Nemo decided to be an idiot, apparently. Fail and immediately conduct a search for adventure action. We have to exert the hull. Instead of gaining treasure for each one earned, we instead draw the next card from the adventure deck and resolve it. So we fail that and immediately conduct the search for adventure action. We have to exert the hull. So we get a +2. So that's a search, and instead of gaining treasure for each treasure we earn, we draw the next card from the adventure deck and resolve it. So we have a mandatory +2 on this test. That's a 9, +2 is 11, so we will actually get an adventure. And the adventure that we find here is the Armory. After any Nautilus attack or insight or test roll versus dangerous beasts or peoples, like sharks, hostile natives, etc., we may gain +1 die roll modifier for +1 notoriety or +1 or -1 hull each. So we have to test, and we can choose to exert either Nemo, the hull, or possibly both. If we pass, I know it would cost us 3 to acquire it. If we pass, we add this adventure card to the available Nautilus upgrades. If we fail, we put this in the fail pile and lose either 1 Nemo or 1 hull. With this gun, every blow is mortal. The balls are tiny laden bottles filled with high-tension electricity. With the slightest shock, they are discharged, and the animal, however strong it may be, falls dead. Excuse me. So, since we already exerted the hull, I think we're going to leave the hull exerted. We actually gained the hull back that we exerted, and then we're going to exert it again for this test. Alright, that's a 6. +2 is 8. The test was an 11, so we actually fail that. Which means we fail and either lose a Nemo or a hull. So we lose the hull that we exerted, and I'm going to lose another hull. Which is unfortunate, but there's no help for that. We go for the placement phase next. That's 4 and a 2. So we place these ships there. We will have 2 actions for the turn. So South Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific. We will have 2 actions for the turn. So now the question is, do I want to take the test on the Torres Strait? I think so. So actually, let's not do that yet. We're going to take 1 action to move from the Cape of Good Hope to the Indian Ocean, where I'm going to search for treasure. I'm going to search for treasure, and I'm going to exert the crew for a +3 modifier. That's a 7 +3 is 10, so we do succeed and collect a treasure, which means that treasure goes back into the gem bag. There we are. And we gain it's a 2 victory point treasure. Cool. Which means we also keep the crew since we did succeed. And we're back to a new round again. So we go back up to the event phase. So the event we will draw this time. Okay, wait, that should have gone in the fail pile, that armory. Aranax's determination. For 7 months we've been aboard your vessel, and I ask you today, in the name of my companions as well as myself, if you intend to keep us here forever. Professor Aranax, Captain Nemo said, I'll answer you today just as I did 7 months ago. Whoever boards the Nautilus must never leave it. So we have to test 11. We can choose to exert Nemo or the crew. Pass and immediately return one previously sacrificed character back to play, if available. You do not recover any lost notoriety. Fail and either sacrifice the Professor Aranax character if available, or gain +1 D3 notoriety. I think I'm going to exert the crew on this one for a +3. So we've got a +3 modifier on the test. So apparently, Professor Aranax isn't very happy with us. That's an 8 + 3 is 11. So we will pass that. So we pass. We haven't sacrificed anybody yet, and in fact, Professor Aranax was available. So we're going to return. So we're going to put that card in the pass pile. Now we're going to roll for the placement dice. Okay, so that's a little bit of a problem. Actually, that's a problem in a couple ways. First, it's double, so we did roll a lull turn. Place a ship token only for the white dice. So I think we just need the 1 for, since we did pull into a lull turn. Let's see. So yeah, they're doubles. So we place, which means multiple ships in the doubles ocean. Okay, so we're placing a hidden ship in the Indian Ocean, but that ocean is now full. So if there are no open spaces in that major ocean, then we have to spread out. So we place a hidden ship token in an adjacent ocean. So that place an additional one then? Place a hidden ship token? Yeah. So it looks like we place an ocean or a hidden ship in the Cape of Good Hope. That's where we'll go with that. Then we place a treasure. Then we place a treasure available in the Doubles Ocean, which is once again the Indian Ocean. And I think we put another one on top of the Adventure deck. So we put another one up there. And then the Imperialist Powers crush uprisings, removing uprising cubes. Alright, for each, that is an uprising, so actually we haven't incited any uprisings yet. We won't have any actions, so there's really nothing we can do at this point. So receive no action points. We don't have any action points, so we're back to the event phase again. Probably should have saved something in our last turn, but hindsight, as they say. Our next adventure, Captain Nemo's Diaries. For my part, I did not wish to bury with me my curious and novel studies. I had now the power to write the true book of the sea, and this book, sooner or later, I wish to see daylight. Alright, so after placing the finale card in the pass or fail pile, we have to test, and we can't exert anything. It depends on if the finale passes or fails for the difficulty of the test. So that's one we're going to see when we get to the we'll come back to that when we get to the finale, but we are a ways off from the finale. So now let's go into the placement phase. Let's go into the placement phase. 5 and 3 is where we're placing hidden ship tokens. Okay. So we've got a hidden ship in the European seas. And one, actually, I think I want it to be more like that. Yeah. And one in the North Pacific. Just going to turn these so they actually look like ships rather than weird angles. There we go. And now we are going into a standard turn because now we actually didn't roll doubles. I placed the ships already. We get 2 action points. All right, so now we're actually going to take so we get 2 action points. We're actually going to take an action first to search for treasure in the Indian Ocean. I'm going to leave the crew exerted. That's a 6 plus 3 is 9, so that's just barely a success. Good thing I exerted the crew, or left the crew exerted, so we will get another treasure. Looks like a wonder, the Great Barrier Reef. So probably one wonders seen victory point. We'll take that out. And the question now becomes, do I want to risk the action point now on the Torres Strait? And I think the answer to that is no. Especially not after what happened on my last lull turn. So that'll bring us back into the event phase once again. And the next card that we're going to find on the adventure deck, a pearl worth 10 million. There, between its leaf-like folds, I saw a loose pearl as big as a coconut. Its globular shape, perfect clarity, and wonderful orient made it a jewel of incalculable value. Carried away by curiosity, I stretch out my hand to take it, weigh it, fondle it. While in the Indian Ocean, for an action, we can test a 10 difficulty and we can exert the crew for this. If we pass, we put this in the fail and collect 3 treasures. If we fail it and gain 1 notoriety. At game's end, we pass if we use it. If we don't use it. Alright, let's roll for the placement phase next. I definitely like these games that have the turn sequence marked on them. That way I can use something like an arrow or something to help me follow along with the turn structure and how everything's going. Okay, that's going to make for a good turn. So we actually place in the Western Pacific, and then we've got to spread out because the Indian Ocean is full. We'll put another one in the Western Pacific. I was hoping there'd be a way to start revealing some of these ships, but there might be there probably will be coming up. Place that ship in an adjacent ocean. Okay. So, yeah. Alright, we do get 5 actions, as I mentioned. So we'll be taking those actions. I think we will start off with the pearl worth 10 million. I am going to exert the crew on this test. See if we can do anything with that. So we got a +3 modifier from exerting the crew. That's a 5 plus 3 is 8, which is not enough to pass. Unless I want to sacrifice Professor Aronnax for a +2 die roll modifier, which or I can sacrifice my first officer, but I think I'm going to sacrifice Professor Aronnax to give me a +2 die roll modifier. So that will be just enough to get me a pass, and I will collect 3 treasures. I think I got 3 out. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, so we've got a treasure chest that's worth a treasure worth a 1 treasure victory point. A wonder is seen for blue holes, and discard this and draw 2 treasure tokens. So I'll put that in there. And these 2, and we'll draw 2 more out of the bag. It looks like I also gain a notoriety from sacrificing Professor Aronnax. Alright, another 3 victory points, and discard to draw 4 treasure tokens. Select 1 and return the other 3. We'll go ahead and do that now. We're spending a lot of time in the treasure bag here to start this turn. Let's see, that should be 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put that one back. I haven't looked at any of them yet. I was going by feel to make sure I had enough, but here we are. Okay. Alright, so we've got discard to draw 4 treasure tokens, select 1 and return the other 3. 4 victory points, Lost City of Dwarfka for another wonder scene point, and, return for an action or keep for 2 victory points. I'm going to keep the Lost City of Dwarka because I just saw Wonders Seen, and that scores times 7 at the end of the game. So I think that's going to be worth the most victory points by far. And then we had so that was our first action, was to do the pearl worth 10 million. Let's see here. We're going to spend 2 more adventure points to look at an adventure. So let's go on an adventure in the Indian Ocean. We've got Q ships deployed. We're filled with timber to sit low in the water and armed with marines and experimental depth bombs. These innocent-looking ships were deployed hoping the Nautilus would engage them. For the rest of the game, when you attack a non-warship and roll doubles, you also suffer 1 hit when making a stock attack or 2 hits when making a bold attack. Keep this card in your tableau as a reminder. At the game's end, goes in the fail pile. So we'll draw 2 treasures out since that's what we had over there. All right, 2 more treasures coming out of the bag. There we go. We can discard these both to gain something. So this one, discard to gain a reroll or keep for 4 victory points. Discard for a free move action or keep for 2 victory points. Okay. So we exerted the crew. And now we're going to spend an action to move into the Western Pacific. And since I'm moving between the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific, I am going to perform a test at a 7, and I'll exert the hull for a modifier. So I pass, and I can either receive +2 action points for this turn, even if it exceeds the max of 5, or if I fail, I can't save an action this turn. So I am exerting the hull for a +1 roll. That's an 8, which we would have passed naturally. +1 is 9. So we do pass this, and we get +2 action points that we can use this turn. Which will be... Excuse me. So we'll start off with a move to the Central Pacific and the Eastern Pacific. And then we're going to search for treasure. And I'm going to exert... I think I'm going to exert the crew again. We don't seem to want to lose that crew resource. Not that I mind. That's a +3 on the crew. That's a 6, plus 3 is 9, so once again we're just barely successful thanks to exerting the crew, so we will gain a treasure. And we'll find, discard to draw 4 treasure tokens, select 1 and return the other 3. I think I got more than 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, I got 1 too many. So that one will go back in the bag and we'll see what are the 4 we've got here. One that we can discard for an action or keep for 2, 3, and 2 4s. I'll take one of the 4s because I might as well. And then I'm going to bank an action in the Eastern Pacific, and that'll bring us back to the event phase once again. So drawing a fresh card out of the Adventures deck. We've got Act 2, so now we got the first intermission. I was admiring the magnificent aspect of the ocean when Captain Nemo appeared. He did not seem to be aware of my presence and began a series of astronomical calculations. Then, when he had finished, he went and leant on the cage of the watchlight and gazed abstractedly on the ocean. Add the dark yellow reinforcement ship group to the ship draw pool and continue play with the next card. Roll 2 white dice and a black die to begin each placement phase. So now we've got the dark yellow ships going in the ship bag. We'll give that a mix-up. We haven't had to draw from the ship bag yet this game. Now we need to figure out what the black die is for in the placement phase. So let me take a quick look on what the black die is used for. Plus an additional black die. Okay, so conduct ship placement for each die rolled. All the white dice and the black die if it's not a lull turn. Okay, so the black die looks like it's serving as an additional die that we have to roll on for ship placement. Joy! So we're going to start spreading out a lot faster now. Coming out next in the draw pile, we've got the Chief Engineer. When Wenzu was wanted by the Imperial government and had escaped from Canton through Hong Kong, stocky and strong with a love of song, Wenzu's hands stayed busy when crafting things for the Nautilus or those aboard with remarkable cleverness and invention. Keep, fail, and +1 notoriety for 1 free refit action with a brilliance result. Gain an upgrade for 1 fewer salvage. At game's end, passive the Chief Engineer is not sacrificed, otherwise fail. So we will keep that close. Right now we still have our Chief Engineer. So now we're in the ship placement. Now we're in the placement phase. And we only check the white dice for action purposes, the black dice for an additional placement. All right, so we are placing in... So we're placing in Oceans 5 and 6. So we're actually looking at the... European seas. They're full, but we can place a ship in the North Atlantic. So we'll grab a hidden ship token there. As for the Indian Ocean, we're full there, but we can place in the Western Pacific. We're also placing in the North Atlantic, but that's full, so we're moving to the Arctic Ocean. We're probably going to start revealing some of these ships sooner rather than later. So we did that, and so the white dice didn't roll doubles, but we only have 1 action this turn. That's unfortunate. We did save one, though. Good thing we did. I think here we are going to... I think we're going to try to repair here. And I'm going to exert the crew on trying to repair the hull. We've taken a little bit of a beating on the hull. That's a 7 plus 3 is 10, which means regular maintenance is successful, so we do gain a hull back. And we hold on to the crew that we exerted. Let me plug in my iPad to charge here, because I didn't see it was that low, or getting that low. And I think that is going to be the end of the turns. We are going to bank an action point just to make sure I have something I can do during a lull turn. But let's see what we get for our next event. Our next event, hunting to extinction. Although twice near extinction, there are enough seals today for us to hunt them. Like the American Indians, we waste nothing, using the seal pelts, flesh, and fat for the ship's lubricants, cooking oil, lamp fuel, and even soap. We can fail this and gain a notoriety, then immediately either collect a treasure and gain an action point or gain one Nemo. At game's end, passively don't use it. Okay, so that might be something we want to keep an eye on. So now we're rolling in the ship placement phase. All right, so we're placing. Actually, I think we're going to start revealing ships at this point. Right. Let's take a look here. So we start in Ocean 3, which is the North Atlantic. Both of the adjacent oceans are full. So now draw a... Okay, so now we have to draw from the ship pile, or draw from the ship bag, which I've got that right here. I'm actually so glad that the Ultimate Edition of Nemo's War came with I'm glad it came with some bags that you can use so you don't have to worry about supplying opaque containers. So our first ship coming out is the Alfred, a passenger ship. So we'll go ahead and place that in the North Atlantic. Especially since we are already going to be placing in the European seas, most likely. Yes, we are. I'm going to work on pulling dice out, try to leave them as is. So we're placing in the European seas with this one. We've got the Clyde coming out, which that'll go in the European seas. And the number in the upper right corner, I believe, is the defense value that we would need to meet or beat. Yes, defense strength. Okay. So that goes back there. And then we are placing a ship in the Indian Ocean as well. Same problem that we have as before. The other adjacent oceans are full, so we're going to place a ship in the Indian Ocean. And we've got, we've got the French Border Capital ship coming out. Looks like this one actually is a warship. I believe the number in the upper left is its attack strength. It's been a minute since I've played this game, in case you couldn't tell. Yep, attack strength. Alright, so So the Borda is going into the Indian Ocean with an attack strength of 8, a defense strength of 11. So that could be potentially a problem. We do get 2 actions for the round, plus the one we saved is a total of 3 actions. So we placed everything already, and we're performing actions. So let's actually use an action point to move into the South Atlantic. Remember, I can move 2 spaces, 2 oceans because of the hydro drive that we've got. Then I'll go ahead and search for treasure for another action. I will exert the crew again. That's a 4 plus 3 is 7. So we do collect a treasure, but we get +1 notoriety. So we'll go back into the treasure bag. Actually, let's bump our notoriety up to 2. So our treasure that we get here is another straight 3 victory points. And I think I'm going to bank my last action point. So we'll go back into the event phase. And our next card here is the slave trade. Ooh, I wouldn't be happy about this. The captain railed about exposing and destroying the slave trade, taking pride in freeing slaves ship by ship and adding some to his crew. Lieutenant Kuhn volunteered to lead raids against slaving ports, but they failed to develop. Keep. When the Nautilus is in the South Atlantic, you may spend 2 action points or 1 during a lull turn to raid slave ports. We can test 9 and exert the crew, which reminds me that's back again. We can exert the crew. Pass to gain a crew and a treasure. Fail, gain 2 notoriety. Or fail, gain 2 notoriety and lose a hull. At game's end, fail. Alright, so we are in the South Atlantic right now, which gives us the option if we want to try to break up the slave trade. But let's roll dice for the placement phase. Alright, we're placing twice in the Eastern Pacific. 1 we can place, because that's the black die, so one we can place with a hidden ship. Actually, we can place in the South Atlantic as well, but we can spread out. We'll spread out into the Central Pacific. So we'll have 2 actions, and I think what do I want to do here? During any one... What to do? The ocean's getting a little bit crowded for comfort. But... what do we want to do here? There's no treasure right now in the South Atlantic. The only treasure right now is up in the European seas. But I believe we get a modifier if any warships are present. But fortunately, the Clyde in the European seas is not a warship. So I think we are going to take an action to move up to the North Atlantic and then go to the European seas. Then we're going to search for treasure up there, and I'm going to exert the crew. That's a snake eyes. That's going to be an automatic fail, which is going to bring us to a 5. So Calamity, we lose the crew we exerted. We also lose another crew and a hull. So yeah, -1 per revealed ship token. So yeah, we would have lost that anyway. And I think there we are going to... I think we're going to call it a turn right there. So that'll bring us back to another event phase. So our next event phase is Ned Land's Tempers. Before I could make a single movement to prevent him, the Canadian rushed at the poor man, threw him down, held him by the throat. The steward was choking in the grip of those powerful hands. Pass to keep this card on test 10. We can choose to exert Nemo or the crew. I think we're going to exert the... I think we're going to exert the crew. Are we going? I've been assuming we can only exert one resource per test. Can we exert both on a test? Resolving tests. You can exert none, any, or all of the ship's resources listed as available to help. I think I will exert the crew and Nemo both, so I'll get a +5 on this test. Especially having just rolled Snake Eyes. And we roll it again. So we lose the crew and the Nemo we had exerted, which means we fail, and we either have to lose a Nemo or 2 crew or sacrifice Ned Land. Ned Land gives us a +1 die roll modifier after the roll. I think we're going to lose... I think we're going to sacrifice... We're going to lose a Nemo. Because he gets stronger as he's almost like the insanity track in Cthulhu Death May Die. His track is anyway. He gets stronger as he gets closer and closer to the brink of insanity. So we're going to lose the Nemo on that. And then he goes into the fail pile. Yep. And now we're into the placement phase. Okay, so we're placing in the Indian Ocean, except it's full. So, except it's full and we can't spread out, so we're placing another ship in the Indian Ocean. Oop, that's the treasure bag. We want the ship bag. We've got the City of Adelaide coming out. 2 notoriety if we sink it. Defense strength of 8. Then we have then we're placing in the Eastern Pacific, but we can spread out. We'll spread out to the Central Pacific. And then the 4 is actually our ocean. We're going to place another ship there. We have to be aware, though, that if it's a warship coming out, we have to fight it immediately. We have got the Taiping. 2 notoriety if we, or 1 notoriety if we sink it, defense strength of 9. Alright, we do get 2 actions. So that's, actually, wait a minute, we should have been placing in the South Atlantic. So that should, the Taiping shouldn't be out yet. Actually, no, it shouldn't be. So we should still have a hidden ship token in the European seas, but we can spread out to the Cape Horn. So we have 2 actions. Do we? And what does this ship say? When you attack a non-warship and roll doubles. I think I'm going to try to search for treasure this turn, but I want to see if I can knock out the Clyde first. So, yeah, we don't need to do... what do we want to do here? Is there something else we can set up? So I think we want to take a... So pick a ship. Okay, so it looks like we can place a... So it looks like if we target something, we can reveal it, but I think we're going to play... I think we're going to attack the... let's see, bold attack. I'm looking for... Not a torpedo attack. I thought there was a stock attack. Oh, here it is. It's on the back. Yeah, we're actually going to take a stock attack on the... We're going to place a stock attack on the Clyde. That's what we're going to attack. So we're taking a... Maybe attacked immediately. We gain a +1 die roll modifier. So yeah, we're going to put an attack marker on it. Yep, okay. So with the bold mark, with the stock attack, maybe attacked immediately. We are going to attack it. We gain a +1 die roll modifier, and we need to beat a 7. We need to beat a 7 for this. So we're basically ramming this. And I think we're going to exert... Nemo to get another +2 modifier. So we're at a total of +3. That's an 11. Fortunately, we didn't roll double, so we don't take a hit ourselves, but we do sink him. But we do sink that ship. So that's a... Yep. And the leftmost... Okay, so that's the European seas. So that's our first sunken ship. Actually, there's a little marker in the little piece in the middle here that I need to punch out. So I've got that taken care of. And now it's been punched out, so we're good there. All right, now we're going to go ahead, and now we're going to search for treasure. And I'm going to exert... Actually, do I want to search for treasure, or do I want to... It could be a good idea to go back to the South Atlantic and maybe look at the slave trade. Let's go ahead and search for treasure anyway. And I'm going to exert Nemo for a +2. 5 plus 2, or 8 plus 2 is 10, so we will succeed, and we'll get a treasure out of the European seas. And now we've got the right bag. Even if we didn't take out the Clyde, we would have... Even if we didn't take out the Clyde, we would have passed, because we would have still had a 9 as our total result. 8 plus 2 from exerting Nemo would have been a 10, minus 1 would have been 9, so we would have still been fine. And the treasure we get here is we can discard for 2 free move actions or keep for 3 victory points. So that'll bring us down to 1, and I think that's where we're going to call it a turn. So now we'll move into a new event phase. Definitely enjoying this. I'm definitely enjoying this game a lot as I'm getting into the flow of it. Let's find our new adventure. We've got Oleo Margarine. First, let's remember to unexert Nemo. Napoleon III offered a prize for a butter substitute, but it proved unpopular and was thus fobbed off on their navy. A prize from a French ship, Cookie served it with trepidation and awaited the crew's reaction. Play. Roll a die and assess the crew's reaction by counting that many spaces down from the first space on the crew resource track. Fail if the count is greater than the crew resource, lose a crew. Pass if the count is less, gain a crew, and if it's equal to the crew resource, no effect. So that count is greater than the crew resource. All right, let's go ahead and roll a die. That's a 5, so if the count is greater than the crew resource. So, counting that many spaces down from the first space. Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since the count is... Okay, this is a little bit confusing. If the count is greater than the crew resource. So what I think it's considering. I think it's considering this as the first space, so it looks like we lose a crew. At least I'm understanding that correctly. So if the count is greater than the crew resource, we lose a crew. At least that's how I think that's working. That card was a little confusing. Let's see what we're replacing though. All right, so we'll start off in the North Atlantic. We are placing a hidden ship token in the European seas, so the one we just sunk. And then we have to place a ship in the South Atlantic, so we'll place one there. We've got the Chance coming out, which is a British passenger ship. Defense strength of 10, 2 notoriety, but worth 3 non-warship victory points. And then we are placing a ship in the European seas. Uh-oh. We've got the Ryuho, which is a Japanese ironclad coming out. Attack strength of 7, defense strength of 10, 1 notoriety if we sink it, 2 warship points. And since that is a warship, we do have to conduct we do get attacked immediately. I believe targeting... Okay, so yeah, since we drew a ship, since we drew a warship, I think it attacks us immediately. Okay, so it wants to be less than the attack strength. So so attacking is a roll under, so we want to see high rolls on their attacks. Let me just double check the... Let's see, replace 1 hidden ship. Okay, get hostile. Just looking here. Non-warships don't attack the Nautilus. Yeah, I'm thinking designated target. Targeting a hidden ship. I thought I saw something about the play test, yada yada yada. I thought I saw something about if you draw a warship, it attacks immediately. Maybe I'm crazy about that, but I'm trying to find that in here because I would have sworn I saw something about that if you pull a warship out during the... I thought I saw something about... Okay, so yeah, it looks like if you place the ship in the same ocean as the Nautilus. For each major placement, yada yada yada. Reveal. So I'm thinking that if we put a warship in the same ocean as the Nautilus, that it attacks us immediately. But I can't tell. But I don't see anything in here about that for sure. I'm going to go with what my gut's telling me, that if we draw a warship out in our same ocean, it attacks immediately. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. So we're going to go with the warship attack first. So the Ryuho is attacking. And we want to see it roll low. That's an 8, so we just barely miss. So it just barely misses us. But man, that was close. And then we make a mandatory free stock attack. So we are going to be stock attacking the Ryuho. And I probably should have kept the... So we only had... I think we only had 2 actions. Yeah, we only have 1 action this turn. But we are making a stock attack, so we do get a 10. We will sink the Ryuho, but we will get 1 notoriety out of that. So we gain 1 notoriety, and we've got 1 action this turn. Which I think I'm going to use... We're actually a little bit busted up. So I think we are going to move back to the South Atlantic with the plan of sitting tight to maybe do something about the slave trade next turn. And then that'll bring us back to the event phase. I'm going to grab one of my dials so I can use that to keep track of how many action points I get in case I need to do another attack like that. So now our next adventure is fuel oil. The Earth secretes oil as we do sweat. Beyond mere kerosene and lubricants, this black muck has energy potential. Prehistoric wood and flora is today's coal and tomorrow's fuel oils. We must try to convert this waste into efficient energy. We have to take a test of 8 and we can exert the hull, which I think we will do because we need to get... I'd love to get our 2 hull back. So we've got a +1 modifier on this. Which we don't get. So we fail the test. The 4 + 1 is 5. So we lose the hull that we exerted. And then we lose our action point that we had banked for the turn. So let's see if we can do any... Let's see if we can get any actions back in the placement phase. Just barely, but yes. So we'll start off with the placement in the... We'll start off with the placement in the European seas. We can put a hidden ship token down. We will also have 1 action point, by the way, which odds are I'm probably just going to end up sitting on that. Then we're placing in the South Atlantic, but we don't have anything there, so we're placing another ship in the South Atlantic. We'll pull that ship out. And we've got the Jumna, a Norwegian slave ship, which might be a good candidate for attacking later. +1 crew if we sink it. Defense strength of 7 to sink it. Alright, so that's the placement in the South Atlantic. And moving into the Indian Ocean, that's full up. So we are going to place another ship in the Indian Ocean. I'm marking our 1 action, but I have a feeling we're going to end up sitting on it and just going right into another event phase. And we've got the Agamemnon. It's a British freighter. Defense strength of 8, 1 notoriety if we sink it, 2 non-warship victory points. Alright, that was 1 action point, but I think we're just going to sit on it and go right into the next event phase. So the next card off the Adventures deck is Wonders for +1 VP each. My countryman, Nadar, was among the survivors. The renowned caricaturist, balloonist, and now photographer boarded the Nautilus, concerned for his possessions. He ventured with our adventures before daring his escape. Play to gain a victory, gain a notoriety. Keep this card as a reminder that each wonder is worth 1 bonus victory point when scoring at the end of the game. At game's end, that goes into the pass pile. Nice. And now we're into the placement phase and rolling dice. So that was actually a pretty good one. And that's going to give us a lot of action points, but it's also going to... So now we're all the way up to our max of 5 action points. But we're placing a ship... We're trying to place a ship in the Western Pacific, except it's full. So we're placing a ship in the... So we're placing an actual ship. We are placing, the Royal Sovereign with an attack strength of 8, defense strength of 10, 2 notoriety, 3 warship points at the British Ironside. Then we're placing a ship in the North Atlantic. Treasure bag, Phoenix. This one is the ship bag. Honestly, this is probably going to be another good game to consider for something else I'm going to be doing on the channel next month. But we will have more on that during Pino with Phoenix later tonight. What we've got coming out now is the British passenger ship Zealand. Defense strength of 2, 1 notoriety if we sink it, and 2 non-warship victory points. That's going into the South Atlantic. Then we've got a ship in the Indian Ocean. We are going to go to the Western Pacific and place another ship there. We've got the Cutty Sark, the British clipper. 1 notoriety if we sink it, defense strength of 9, and 2 non-warship victory points. And we get 5 action points for a great turn. Which one was the slave trade? Actually, I think the first thing I want to do is I want to rest. So we're going to exert Nemo for this rest action. That's an 8, plus 2 is 10, so we gain a crew, which we very much needed that. Then, I'm going to take 2 actions. I'm going to take 2 actions and do something about the slave trade. So we are going to test this, and I'm going to exert the crew for another plus 2. We need to get at least a 9 after modifiers. That's a 5 plus 2 is 7, so we fail. Which means we fail, gain 2 notoriety, and lose a hull, in addition to also losing the crew that we exerted. That goes into the fail pile. That kind of blew up in my face. Let's go ahead and make a stalk attack on the Jumna. Nemo is not a fan of the slave trade at all. And I'm actually going to go ahead and exert him because of that. So we've got a plus 2 on a stalk attack on the Jumna. That's an 8, plus 2 is 10. Thankfully we didn't roll doubles. So we do sink the Jumna in that is the South Atlantic. And that also gives us a crew back. So one of the slaves grateful that we stopped the ship on the way to wherever he was going, possibly the Americas. Grateful joins our crew. But I think that will move us into the next event phase. So our next event card coming up. All by electricity. Professor, said Captain Nemo, my electricity is not everybody's. I owe all to the ocean. It produces electricity, and electricity gives heat, light, motion, and, in a word, life to the Nautilus. Pass at any time during your action phase to immediately receive an additional D3 of actions this turn. At game's end, passive unused. Alright, we saved our one action, but we are rolling dice to see how many actions we get this turn. Or if we get any. Okay, so we are having to place a ship in the Eastern Pacific. We will get one action, by the way. So we place in the Eastern Pacific. Actually, we can move that ship token to the South Atlantic, and that'll be fine. So that'll take care of the placement on ship 4. And we are revealing a ship in the Eastern Pacific. We'll have to reveal one in the North Atlantic as well. So let's reveal the ship in the Eastern Pacific first. We've got the Royal Adelaide, defense strength of 10, 2 notoriety if we sink it, 3 non-warship victory points. It's a British freighter. And then we'll place so we moved over to the South Atlantic, but we've got to place one in the North Atlantic as well. And we have got the Finnish passenger ship Donau. Defense strength of 8, 1 non-warship victory point if we sink it. It doesn't give us any notoriety. I think we're going to try to repair the hull. And I'm going to exert Nemo. Our hull is taking a little bit of a beating here, and I'd like to get that repaired if I can. That's a 10, plus 2 is 12. So repair teams are out on that, which means we gain 2 hull. 1, 2. And I think that is where we're going to call it a turn. So we're back up into the event phase after I take a quick drink. Our next adventure is Act 3, the second intermission. The Nautilus went at a frightful pace, 40 miles an hour. It literally tore through the water. Where was Captain Nemo? Had he succumbed? Were his companions dead with him? Change Nemo's motive or select a Nautilus upgrade for purchase. Add the orange replacement ship group to the ship draw pool and continue play with the next card. Roll 3 white and a black die to begin each placement phase, choosing 2 of the white dice to determine action points or a lull turn. I'm not going to change Nemo's motive, but I will... Well, we will have to add the orange ships to the... We will have to add the orange warships to the ship draw pool. And then is there an upgrade that I want to purchase? I think there is, and I will spend the 3 upgrades to grab the double hull. So that'll give me an additional +1 die roll modifier when exerting the hull. Also, we ignore all 6s when rolling to apply damage to the Nautilus. Ship armor was not entirely iron. There would be upward of 15 inches of teak wood backing up the iron plating. The wood prevented spalling and absorbed the shock of a hit that would otherwise damage the structure of the ship. So another very good card that we've got there. But it looks like we need to continue with the next card? I don't think so. Let's see if there's something special that explains what happens when an intermission is drawn. I think we just move along with the turn like normal. I'm trying not to cheat and look at the epilogues, but I think we just move on, and I think we just move it. I think that was just our event card for the turn, so now we go into the placement phase like normal. Okay, so we've got a lot of placement that we're doing. We can go 5-3, 2 actions for the turn, though, because we've got that choice available. But we'll start off by trying to place in the Eastern Pacific, which we can't. We could have a ship potentially land on top of us, though. That could be trouble. But we'll place in the Eastern Pacific. With a Finnish cap, actually, is that Finnish or German? Actually, this would probably be Prussian at this time. Would be Prussian capital warship König Wilhelm. Attack strength of 8, defense strength of 11, 2 notoriety if we sink it, 4 victory points, 4 warship victory points. Then we've got a 3. Need the warship, we need the ship bag again. I'm probably Freudian slipping and saying warship, but we've got a fair number of warships in the bag now. This isn't one of them, though. It's an American freighter, America. Defense strength of 10, 2 notoriety if we sink it, and 3 non-warship victory points. So those 2 are done. Now we come to the placement in the South Atlantic where we are. Uh-oh. We've got the Spanish ironclad Numancia. Attack strength of 7, defense strength of 10, notoriety if we sink it, and 2 warship victory points. We'll have to deal with the attack in a minute, but first, we've got a place in the European seas. We've got the Irish, actually I think that's an Italian frigate, the Giuseppe Garibaldi. It's an attack strength of 6, 9 defense strength. No warship victory points for that one. So we do have to deal with the stock attack from the Numancia. So we've got a stock attack on that, but they get to attack us first. Yikes, that's a 5. So we will take hull damage equal to... So we'll take hull damage, so we'll take 2 hull damage from that. Right. Well, 2d6. If there's another revealed warship in the ocean, which there is not. So hits equal to the lower on the die roll. So we lose that on the hull, I believe. Per hit. Okay, so per hit suffered. So per hit suffered, we lose a random ship resource. So we've got to roll. So we've got to roll 2 more dice. We'll just use these 2. We lose a Nemo and a crew. Yowza. Okay. So now we've got a stock attack that we've got to try to make here. Does combat continue until So what happens if we miss? Right. Okay. Well, let's go for... Yeah, let's just make the attack. We've got to roll, we've got to try to beat a 10, and I'm going to exert... Yikes, if I exert Nemo and I miss... If I exert Nemo and I miss, the game is over. Actually, if I exert Nemo and it's a disaster... Exerting Nemo, though, is probably the only way we're hitting this, ship, so I think we are going to have to risk it. Alright, that's an 11, so we get away with one. We sink the Numancia in the South Atlantic, but we will gain a notoriety for sinking it. So that's not completely nothing. It's just mostly nothing. And we did get our actions back already. I wanted to make sure of that. So I think we need to rest. So I think that'll be our first action, is going to be to try to rest. And I'm going to exert Nemo because we need to get the crew back. That's a 6 plus 3 is 9 for exerting Nemo, which is successful, so we will gain a crew back. Then... Then I think we're going to... Now, there's no treasure available right now. And I think we are... Actually, I'm going to use my all by electricity to gain an additional D3 of actions. I want to see if I can do a little bit of repair work and or rest the crew. Unfortunately, we've got no way to heal Nemo. So we gain a D3, we gain another 3 action points, which is very fortunate. So let's go ahead and rest again. And I'll exert Nemo. That's an 8 plus 3 is 11. So we will gain another crew. Then... I should probably do a little work about clearing out some of these oceans, so I'm going to move into the North Atlantic. Then I'm going to stock attack the Donau. Since that's not going to give me any notoriety, and it's a fairly easy ship to hit, I will exert... Let's exert Nemo for a plus 3 modifier. 7 plus 3 is 10, so that is enough. Actually, plus 1 for the stock attack is 11, so we will sink the Donau. That was in the North Atlantic. And I think I am going to have to sink one of these ships. We'll go for the Zealand, and we'll leave Nemo exerted. So this is another stock attack on the Zealand in the North Atlantic. That's a 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So thanks to the stock attack, we do get just enough to sink the Zealand. We do gain a notoriety for that, though, and I think we are going to bank our action point. So our next card off the deck, Nemo's Element. Nemo's agents secured the recent Table of the Elements, Mendeleev's and Myers. He was developing his own refinements and was adding to his scientific quest the search for new elements, the first of which he would call Nemonium. So we gain a notoriety for this card. We have to play it immediately. We either pass and lose a Nemo and a hull to discover a new element in the periodic table, or fail and gain a hull. My Nemo is getting a little bit Nemo's getting a little bit down there for my comfort. I think I'd rather take the hull, so I'm going to fail that and take the hull point. And then we are into our placement phase. Yowza. Well, we can at least make sure we have 2 actions, but actually we should be totally fine from this. Okay, so Ocean 4, that being the South Atlantic, is going to get a hidden ship token. Ocean 5 actually can spread once over to the North Atlantic. Then we've got 2 in Ocean 6, which is the Indian Ocean, so we're going to reveal the last 2 ships in the Western Pacific. That's how we're going to do that. So both of these are getting revealed. Our first ship coming out is the American freighter Britannia. Defense strength of 10, 2 notoriety if we sink it, 3 non-warship victory points. And I'm not sure what country that is. It's an ironclad, the Waskar. I don't think it's Hungarian, though. I wouldn't swear to it, though. Attack strength of 7, defense strength of 10, a notoriety if we sink it, and 2 warship victory points. We do have our 2 actions back. What do we want to do here? I don't want to move over to the European seas and try to sink the Giuseppe Garibaldi. I really wish I had a way to heal Nemo, though. Actually, our notoriety is pretty low, so I'm going to go ahead and do a stock attack on the Alfred. I'm going to exert Nemo for this to get a total of a +4, because we got a +1 from the stock attack and +3 for exerting Nemo. That's a 5, which I think is still just barely going to be enough, and I mean barely, like by the skin of my teeth, barely. 5 +3 for exerting Nemo is 8, +1 for the stock attack is 9, so yes. We will sink the British passenger ship Alfred in the North Atlantic, but that'll cost me 1 more notoriety. And I think we are going to... I think we're going to rest, actually. I will... No, we're not going to exert anything. Nemo's getting a little bit too close for comfort to being broken. So we're just going to take a regular rest, no modifier. That's a 9, which we don't need, so we'll gain a crew back. So the crew's back to being fresh. Then I will sit on my last action point, and we'll go to our next card. Next card up. Uh-oh, rising action. What sort of craft is it, Nemo? It's a hollow explosion. From its rigging and its low masts, the Canadian replied, I bet it's a warship. Here's hoping it pulls up and sinks this damn Nautilus. Fail and add the red reinforcement ship group to the draw pool, but before doing so, discard a random red ship for each of the first 3 notoriety defeat levels not yet achieved, and add a random undiscarded red ship to the Nautilus's current ocean and fight it immediately as a mandatory free stock action. So, by the notoriety defeat levels not yet achieved, I think we get to discard 2 from that. What does it mean by each of the 3 notoriety defeat levels not yet achieved? So it's probably based on the objectives? Yeah, I think that's probably what it's meaning. So it looks like we get to discard 2. So I've got the red warships in here. We're going to discard 2 of them. There we go. So we're discarding... Ooh, holy crap. Good thing we're discarding these. I just saw how devastating they are. The British battleship Invincible and British Ironside Devastation. That is a relief that we're getting rid of those 2. But we've got one more that we're going to choose at random that we're going to have to put in the North Atlantic and immediately fight. So this one is coming after us in the North Atlantic. We've got the Zealous coming at us. Attack strength of 9, defense strength of 11, 2 notoriety if we sink it, 4 warship victory points, British Ironside. The rest of these are going in the bag. Yikes. Oop. I think I put those, yep, I put those in the treasure bag. Because I am brilliant like that. Let's see, that looks like we got one more. Do I have any more? I think I got them all. Okay. These should be in the war bag, Phoenix, or the ship bag, Phoenix. There, we got it. Okay. So now we are going to have to make a stock attack, but he is going to hit us first. He's got... they've got an attack strength of 9. Which, that's a 9, and we're taking 4 hits. Yikes. Alright, so we are taking 4 hits because that's the lower. If we get 3 Nemos, we just lose. The game's just over. Alright, so we do lose a Nemo, so he's erratic. We take a crew damage, and we take 2 hull. Right, so that definitely could have gone a lot better. Unfortunately, we've got a defense strength of 11 to overcome. The only way we're overcoming that is I think we're going to have to exert multiple resources to get this. So yeah, I think we're going to... I think we're going to have to risk it. I think we're going to exert both Nemo and the crew for a +6. That's an 8. So +6 is 4. Actually, 8, 9, and 6 is 15. So yeah, we managed to sink the Zealous in the North Atlantic, but it cost us 2 notoriety to do it. Actually, we took a bit of a beating from him. Fortunately, we were able to get away with one on that. So that goes in the fail pile, and now we're placing ships. All right, we're going to have 2 in the Indian Ocean, but we're going to be revealing in the South Pacific and the Central Pacific instead. We do get 3 actions back, by the way. Actually, I think we can deal with this in... Actually, let's do it this way. We'll place 2 more hidden ship tokens in the North Atlantic. One for actually the North Atlantic, and the other because the South Atlantic is full. As for the 2 ones, we'll reveal 2 ships in the Central Pacific. First ship coming out is the American frigate Abraham Lincoln. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 9, no warship victory points. And We've got the British passenger ship Hannah More. Defense strength of 8, 1 non-warship victory point. Alright, and I placed our ships. So now we go into our actions. Let's see. I think we're going to move into... I think we're going to take a move action. Move into the Western Pacific. Then we're going to try to incite. And I'm going to... plus X... I'm going to exert the crew on this one for a +3. All right, that's a 7 plus 3 is 10. So we're successful. We place an uprising cube. Which, where did I put the uprising cubes? I thought I pulled them out last night when I was setting up. Hang on. I could have sworn I pulled those things out last night. Oh, they're right here. Duh. They've got a spot on the board, and I couldn't find them on the board. Shows you how much I'm with it today, right, folks? Let's see. And I think... I also lose a notoriety for that, so that's welcome. Let's also go to the... let's move to the Arctic Ocean. I kind of want to hide a little bit here. Yeah, that's fine. Then we're into the event phase once again. So we are actually, I think that's, well, we can go a few more cards. In our next adventure we find Spy Network. The speed and force of world events create winds of change and tides of fortune. I was invited to join a council of officers digesting news stories from an array of sources. Nemo sought patterns, meanings, and importance for his plans. When the Nautilus is in the European seas, you may gain a notoriety to send forth spies. Test of 10. Dice roll modifier is all cubes placed anywhere. Pass, you can fail and select one set-aside non-finale adventure card. Place it on top of the adventure deck. If we fail this and conduct an uprising cube removal step. At game's end, pass. So the European seas are right up here. But we are rolling dice to see what happens with our ships. Okay, so we can take 3 actions. Then we'll start placing. We've got the... how does it determine for lulls? Alright, so we'll start off with the placement in the Western Pacific. That'll turn into a ship in the South Pacific. With the treasure bag, Phoenix. Or with the ship bag. I put the right bag down to grab the right bag, and then I announced I was grabbing the wrong bag. But now I've got the ship bag in my hand. We've got a British clipper, the Taiping, coming out. Defense strength of 9, 1 notoriety if we sink it, 2 non-warship victory points. So that's the placement in the Western Pacific done. Then we've got a placement in the Eastern Pacific to deal with. Which is the British freighter Fulmar. Defense strength of 9, 1 notoriety if we sink it, 2 non-warship victory points. Then we've got a placement in the North Atlantic. And we've got the British clipper Ariel. Defense strength of 9, a notoriety if we sink it, 2 non-warship victory points. And a placement in the South Atlantic. Which gives us the British freighter Scotia. 10 defense strength, 2 notoriety if we sink it, 3 non-warship victory points. So those are all done, and we are taking actions once again. So Nemo is definitely on the edge of insanity here. The ocean is getting a little bit crowded for comfort. So... Let's go ahead and... We'll move over to the European seas for 1. Then I'll incite and I'll exert Nemo for this. That's a boxcars. Plus 3 is 15, so that's a success. We definitely have a revolt. So we place 1 down and we lose 2 notoriety. So we're back down to 9. Then... so later in the game, I think it's once any 2 dice are doubles, we have a lull phase. Is that how that works, or do we have complete control over that at this point? We might actually have complete control over that at this point. I think what I'm looking for is in here. Event phases. Resolving tests. That's not replacement phase. If the 2 selected white dice both show the same result. Okay, so we have complete control over the lull phase here. I think I'm going to move to... If I'm going to attack, I definitely don't want to do it in the South Atlantic. Let's move back to the Arctic Ocean for another action. Remember, I can move 2 because I've got the hydro drive, and then we'll call it a turn there. So we'll go into our next event phase. And our next event phase says... Required repairs. The Nautilus seemed to be calmed only a few yards beneath the surface of the waves. I suppose that the crew was occupied with interior repairs, rendered necessary by the violence of the mechanical movements of the machine. At game's end, pass and score this card's negative victory points, if not removed. To remove this card, i.e. to fail it, we have to perform a successful repair action and forego a hull from doing so. So we might want to try to get rid of that sooner rather than later. Anyway, let's roll dice and see where we're placing ships. Okay, well, we've got 5 actions available to us because of the difference. We'll start off with a placement in, we'll start off with the Indian Ocean. We'll place in the Cape of Good Hope. We're placing there because everything else is full. We have got another warship coming out. The Japanese frigate Fujiyama. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 9. No warship victory points if it's sunk. Then we'll place in the South Atlantic. We've got a U.S. whaler Picard. A defense strength of 9, a notoriety if it's sunk, and a non-warship victory point, but also a +1 Nemo. That might be tempting to go after, if for no other reason than to recover a Nemo. 2, we've got a ship that we can place there. So that's in the Eastern Pacific. And we've got the British mail ship Tinwald. Defense strength of 9, 3 notoriety if we sink it, and 3 non-warship victory points. And then the Western Pacific, the only ocean that isn't full is the Arctic, so that's where it's getting placed. We've got I don't know if this is a Canadian or an Australian flag, but it's something from the British Commonwealth. It's a ghost ship, the Mary Celeste. Attack strength of 7, no non-warship victory points, but a wonder. Which we could potentially attack that. And I've got to remember, too, that wonder points, that we score at a ×7 on wonder points. So I think we are going to take a ram shot at that. And I'm going to exert a Nemo for it. So we need to get past a strength of 7. Well, this is a stock attack, so we've automatically got a +4. Which we would have sunk that naturally anyway. Fortunately, we don't gain any notoriety for it. But it should be in the... Oh, we picked the nearest major ocean. We'll take the Western Pacific. Okay. Then, that was our first action. So that's unexerted. Our next action is going to be to try to get rid of the required repairs. So we're going to take a repair action, and I'm going to exert the crew on this one. That's a 3. +3 is 6. Unfortunately, that is not enough. But it's a lack of parts, so no effect. But we do lose the crew that we exerted for it. We'll try it again, exerting Nemo this time for a +3. That's a boxcars. So we actually will gain 2 hull. We'll only gain 1. We'll forego 1 of them to put this in the failed discard pile. So we're in the fail pile. I needed that card gone. And we will move... Actually, we're going to move into the Central Pacific. I want to plan on going after the Picard next turn. So we're setting up... Well, that's if we get enough action. So I'm setting up for that. And we're back into a new round. So into the event phase we find... Ocean Wealth. I understand, Captain. I understand your delight at strolling in the midst of this wealth. You're a man who gathers his treasure in person. No museum in Europe owns such a collection of exhibits from the ocean. Pass and gain a notoriety. Then place a treasure in each of the 6 major oceans. Nice! So that goes into pass. We gain a notoriety going up to 10. We're mostly keeping the world's navies at bay, though. So that's a very good thing. We'll place our treasures in the major oceans. There we are. So that's a very welcome thing that can happen. And now we're rolling dice. Yowza. Alright, well, I think we're going to have at least a mild problem on our hands. So we only get 1 action this turn, which I can use. Actually, I'm going to end up short of the South Atlantic, which is where the Picard is at. Yikes. Alright, so another thing I need to check on is what happens when ship placements are when we got nowhere to place anything. Gaining notoriety. Here we go. If there are, okay, so for Ocean 4, which is the South Atlantic, we can flip one of these ships to get hostile. So we don't have a hidden ocean and an adjacent. Actually, we can reveal in Cape Horn, so I think that's what we're going to have to do here. So yeah, we'll have to reveal a ship in Cape Horn, but one of these is getting flipped. Actually, we're going to be revealing a few ships, I think. We've got the British mailer ship Rhone. Defense strength of 7, 1 notoriety if we sink it, 1 non-warship war point. Or 1 non-warship victory point. This one is going to turn one of these ships hostile, and I will turn I'll turn the Rhone hostile, so that will turn into an armored frigate warrior. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 10, 1 notoriety if we sink it, and 1 warship victory point. 5 is going to reveal something in the European seas, and I just overshot my hidden ship marker. Yikes. We've got the British passenger ship Star of India. A defense strength of 10, 3 notoriety if we sink it, but 4 non-warship victory points. And then the Indian Ocean is going to do what? We're going to have the city of Adelaide turn hostile. That'll turn into the Turkish frigate Ertugrul. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 9. No warship victory points. Yep, we did that. And 1 point I'm going to use to move over to Cape Horn. So I'm set up to go after the Picard next turn, which is what I wanted to do. Just making sure I didn't pull the cord. And I think we're going to keep going. I'm actually having a lot of fun with this game now that I'm starting to get the flow of it. And we're flipping over into the arms shipment. Conseil, South America is arming itself, adding more demand to the growing world market for weapons. I would venture that Captain Nemo would find Gatling guns and crates of ammunition a prize beyond measure. Pass. Keep this card. Fail when played to place a 1 uprising cube for free in every desired empty land space connected to the Nautilus's ocean, or, actually that's a test I've got to take. I can exert either the crew, the hull, or both. And I think I will exert them both, because that's also a test of 10. So this is a +3 modifier. Which that's an 11, so we will pass that. Now we actually get to read through the pass. We can fail when playing this card when played to place an uprising cube for free in every desired empty land space connected to the Nautilus's ocean, or passive unused. If we failed, we would have suffered a notoriety and we would have gained a notoriety and suffered a hit. Fortunately, that didn't happen, though. So now we're in the placement phase. Alright, I think we are going to go for 3 actions. We're going to use 4 - 1. And then we're going to be turning... Actually, I think we're going to be turning a bunch of ships hostile here. Yeah, the 2 ones are going to be in the Indian Ocean, so we'll turn the Cutty Sark hostile into the French armored frigate La Corune. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 10, 1 notoriety if we sink it, and a warship victory point. We'll also turn the Britannia hostile into the U.S. frigate Delaware. 6 attack strength, 9 defense strength, no warship victory points if we sink it. 4 is going to turn one of these ships hostile. We will turn the Chance hostile into the French frigate Bristol. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 9, no warship victory points if we sink it. And a 5 is going to reveal a ship in the European seas. I'm going to get these two back in their bags. Ship bag, Phoenix. And we'll pull, it's a warship. Probably, I think this is Danish. Danish armored frigate, Jylland. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 10, a notoriety if we sink it, and a warship victory point. And we've got, what do we say, 3 actions. I think action 1 is going to be to move into the South Atlantic. Action 2, we are going to take a stalk attack on the... We are going to take a stalk attack on the Picard, and I'm going to exert Nemo for this attack. Mainly because we gain a Nemo if we sink him. And we need to beat a 9, we've got a +4. That's a 4, +4 is 8, so we actually come up short trying to sink him. So Nemo is now unstable, which is problematic. And I think we're going to try one more time. I can't afford to exert Nemo again, so I'll exert the crew on this one. And I think on... Let me look at that. If we normal attack resolution, we... Target not affected gain a notoriety and lose 1+ ship resources of the type exerted. So actually, I think since we exerted Nemo, I think we lose. Let me double check these. If that's in addition to what we exerted, then the game's just over right here. Combat. Here we are. Let's see here. Hang on, make test failure difficulty level setting. So, see rule 7. So we do gain the notoriety either way. Are always one, since we are playing on Sailor. Okay, so that's a relief. We don't lose the additional, but we do gain the notoriety. And I think we are going to run the attack back, and I exerted the crew for this. An 8 + 2 is 10, so that will be enough to sink. Actually, +1 is 11, so that will be enough to sink the Picard. We're in the South Atlantic, and that'll give me a Nemo, so that'll take Nemo away from the brink of going insane, which is what I wanted to have, which is what I wanted to avoid here. So that'll bring us back up to the start of a new round. Honestly, I think we're getting near the end of the game here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards left. I might just continue this to a finish. I was thinking about breaking it up, but A, I'm having fun with this, and B, like I said, we're near the end, I think. Public opinion. Traders, ship owners, captains of vessels, and skippers and master mariners from Europe and America, naval officers from every country, and at their heels, the various national governments on these two continents were all extremely disturbed by the business. Fail and place one ship token in each major ocean using the usual placement rule, see Rule 10. For each revealed ship token so placed, also gain +1 notoriety. So for each revealed. In the Indian Ocean, I think we've got to flip something. We'll flip the Royal Sovereign to hostile, and that just doesn't have any change to it whatsoever. So that gives me a notoriety. Then in the Eastern Pacific, we will turn the Royal Adelaide hostile. That'll turn into the British frigate Eyster. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 9. That's another notoriety. In 3, we've got a ship token that we can place, which will amount to being another notoriety. And And we've got a warship coming out right away. We've got the Spanish armored frigate Arapile. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 10, notoriety if we sink it, 1 warship victory point. Which also gives us a notoriety. Hidden ship in the South Atlantic. We're placing a new ship in the European seas. That'll give us another notoriety. Thankfully, we treasure bag. You want the ship bag. Thankfully, that isn't going to give us the blue ship reinforcement group because we are playing on Sailor, and that's something else I really like about this board, is it's got everything marked for the difficulty settings on where things need to happen. And coming out, we've got the American freighter Ellen Southard, defense strength of 10, 2 notoriety if we sink it, 3 non-warship victory points. And we are turning something hostile. We're going to turn the Agamemnon hostile and the Dictator, the American Ironclad Dictator. Attack strength of 10, defense strength of 10. Attack strength of 7, defense strength of 10. Notoriety if you sink it, 2 warship victory points. So we gained 5 notoriety. That's problematic. And then we're rolling for placement. American and British ships are both hard to sink. Okay, so we either have 3 actions or we have a lull turn, and I think I would rather have the 3 actions. So we're placing, actually I think we're turning 2 more ships hostile in the, Western Pacific and adjacent oceans. We have to turn the Huascar hostile, we'll turn that into a pirate ship. Maybe that's what that flag is. Could be. But it does give us a crew as well. And we're turning the Taiping hostile into the French armored frigate Normandy. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 10, notoriety if we sink it, and a warship victory point. Then we've got 1 ship coming out in the South Atlantic. Uh-oh. British capital ship Hercules. Attack strength of 8, defense strength of 11, 2 notoriety if we sink it, 4 warship victory points. And because it's a warship coming out, it immediately attacks us. We have to take a stock attack on it. So he's got an attack strength of 8. That's an 11, so nothing happening. Now if I can get that result on our attack, I will exert... I think we have to exert Nemo. Because that's the only way we're getting anywhere near a modifier. The only way we're getting anywhere near an 11 with a +4 modifier. That's boxcars, though. Does anything special happen on a 12 when we roll it? I think we just obliterate the ship. I know there's a special result for Snake Eyes, but not for boxcars, apparently. But we do gain 2 notoriety, which gives us the blue ships in the ship draw bag. These are also warships, also very dangerous from the looks of it. So we'll throw those in, mix up the bag. So we got away with 1 there. Marked the actions off already, and we placed... Actually, we haven't done anything with the Indian Ocean yet, so we'll have to turn our last 2 ships there hostile. We've got the Borda that flips over. I think no change. Oh, now the attack strength is a 9 on the Borda. And the Fujiyama flips in. Actually, Fujiyama also has no change except for the attack strength of 7 now. Alright, so we've got 3 actions for the round. Do I want to risk the Bristol attacking me? Well, let's go... I think I'm going to try to search for treasure this turn, so I am going to have to risk having the Bristol attack. So we will start off with a stock attack on the Bristol. Bristol is attacking first. Oh, yikes. Okay, that's bad. That was a snake eyes, so we have to take D6 hits. We're taking 3 hits. All right, let's see what we take in hits from the Bristol. All right, 3 and a... Okay, so we take a crew hit, and we take 2 hull hits. That's problematic. Fortunately, they weren't Nemo hits, so that's not completely nothing. But we are going to have to exert Nemo to get anywhere near this. We've got a +3 on the attack. Well, actually, a +4. And we need to get past a defense strength of 9, which we do easily. So that'll give us... Actually, that won't give us any notoriety. That was a ship in the South Atlantic. All right, so we get the Nemo back that we lost. Then I'm going to search for treasure. And I'm going to exert... Let's exert Nemo again. That's a 6, +3 is 9, so we will get a treasure out of the South Atlantic. Get my hand out of the bag. Ooh, we've got another wonder that we found. The City of Combat. That's a 1... Or Combat, probably. That's a wonder victory point, but remember, because we're exploring, we score wonders at ×7. Alright, and... Actually, that was a -1, which we... Yeah, we do get the treasure, but we also get +1 notoriety. So that's fine. I forgot there was a modifier for revealed ships in the ocean. I forgot the Scotia was still there. Let's see if we can incite an uprising in the South Atlantic. That's a 5, which I didn't do anything special with that, so we couldn't. That's another +1 notoriety. And we'll bank the last action. Let's go into an event phase. So our new event phase. The second officer. Second officer James Patrick appeared to the closest thing Captain Nemo had to a friend. A well-trusted sailor, we often noticed him in close conference with the captain. Mr. Patrick was a stout old sea dog, a charmer, and brimming with every sea story and shanty afloat. Fail and +1 notoriety to recollect a retained treasure token from the discard treasures area. At game's end, pass of the second officer is not sacrificed, otherwise fail. Okay, and once again, we are rolling dice for ship placement. I'd love to see a couple 4s here, because we've got some room to breathe in the South Atlantic now. Okay, well, this is not... Well, it's close to being nothing. Well, I'll start off with a ship placement in the North Atlantic. One of those ships is going to have to turn hostile, though. So here's what's coming out. Uh-oh. Yikes! We've got the British battleship Audacious. Attack strength of 10, defense strength of 13. 3 notoriety if we sink it, 7 warship victory points. Good thing we're not in the North Atlantic. We would have had a huge problem on our hands. And I'm just going to turn that one hostile since I don't... Oh! Attack strength of 12, defense strength of 13. Okay, so that ship's done. Looking in the Western Pacific, we've got we'll turn the Hannah Moore hostile into the, I think that's Austrian, Ironclad Independencia. Attack strength of 7, defense strength of 10. 1 notoriety if we sink it, and 2 warship victory points. That's the Western Pacific done. In the Eastern Pacific, we will turn the Koenig Wilhelm hostile. Attack strength of 9 is what it changes to. And we've got 2 more victory points. So that'll bring, or 2 more action points, since we didn't roll doubles. Alright, well, we've got warships everywhere. So unfortunately we are going to have to brave getting attacked from the looks of it here. Let's go over to the Eastern Pacific for Action 1. And Action 2, we're going to attack the Fulmar. And I will exert Nemo in the attack. That's an 8. Actually, this is a stock attack. 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 1 is 12, so we will sink the Fulmar. That will give me a notoriety, but it will also... That was the Eastern Pacific. Okay. And that will be the turn. So we'll go back up to the event phase. In our next event phase, we will find Family Matters. When a crew member expected a baby, they left our company for remote lands to forge a new life. Family emergencies resulted in dispassionate dismissals. The purser arranged a just severance, and, without ill will, we parted and sailed on. Fail and immediately sacrifice 1 character tile without a benefit for doing so, or lose a crew. I think I'm going to lose the crew. I want to keep the characters for victory points if I can at the end of the game. By the way, Nemo should be back there. And now we're rolling for ship placement. Alright, I don't hate that. Let's start off with the European seas. That is turning something... That's turning something hostile. That will turn the Giuseppe Garibaldi hostile. We'll turn that into an attack strength of 7. Then we'll place a hidden ship in the South Atlantic for our 4 roll. Then 3 is going to place a hidden ship in the Arctic Ocean. And 2 will place 1 in the Eastern Pacific, and we will have 2 actions this round. Alright, back into the action phase we go. I'm going to rest, see if I can heal some of my crew, and I'll exert Nemo. That's a 7 plus 3 is 10, which will be recreation, so we gain a crew. That was action 1. Action 2, I'm going to do a stock attack on the Tinwald, and I'm going to exert Nemo on the attack. So I've got a +4 modifier. Actually, no, that's a terrible idea. Actually, 3 notoriety. Yeah, that's fine. That's a 6. Plus 3 for exerting Nemo is 9. Plus 1 for the stock attack is 10. So we will take the 3 notoriety, go to 24. But I will sink the Tinwald in the Eastern Pacific. And then that will be it for the round. So we'll draw a fresh card. And the card will draw Event 89, Gas Turbines. The Captain Nemo placed the ice on a tray and ignited it. We observed its steady blue flame in awe. He explained curtly, "Methane, trapped in the frozen water. I leave its mysteries to your care and seek only to exploit its energy for the Nautilus. Immediately add this adventure card to the available Nautilus upgrade cards that would cost me 3. Ooh, 1 free move action. I may try to take a refit action and snag that. But let's see if I have actions that I can take. I will. Let's go 6 minus 2 for 4 actions. Let's see. Placing in the... Actually, let's place in the Eastern Pacific first. That'll put a hidden ship token there. Then we'll place in the European seas, we'll turn the Ellen Southard hostile, turning into the American frigate Tennessee. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 9. Then we will turn the Abraham Lincoln hostile. That'll turn into an attack strength of 7. And now I think the game might just end here if we needed to place a warship and can't. The game immediately ends. Every ocean is completely full. Actually, no, I think there's something else we can do. So, if every ocean is completely full of ships, but it is not. So, spread out, which we can't do. Reveal, which we can't do. Get hostile, which we can't do. If there are no open ships and open spaces to place a hidden ship in that or a neighboring ocean, all of those spaces and oceans contain revealed warships, contain revealed ship tokens, and there are no white non-warships among them. Then draw a ship token. Okay, so we're drawing a ship token, and it's got to go somewhere. We have an open space in the South Pacific, so that's where this is going. All right, so the ship coming out, it's got to come out on the war side, on the warship side. We've got the French armored frigate Gloire. Attack strength of 6, defense strength of 10. A notoriety if we sink it, 1 warship victory point. Okay, so as I mentioned, we've got 4 actions this round. I believe we needed 2 for a refit. Right? Yeah. 2 for a refit, which we will do, and we'll exert Nemo. Actually, you know what? You know what we could do, actually? Before we do that, didn't we have a card that would let us gain... Fail and gain +1 notoriety for a free refit action with brilliance. I think that's what we're going to do. So we'll take the fail and the notoriety for that card for a refit action with a brilliance result. So we're going to spend 2 of our salvage to gain the gas turbine. So we get a free move action during each action phase. So that's very useful. I think we're I don't think there's anywhere we can go that's got treasure in it without getting attacked. So I think we are going to... Yeah, I'm actually going to gamble here. We'll see if I can maybe clear some of this treasure out. So action 1 is going to be we'll attack the Eyster. We'll hope the Eyster rolls low. Or we want the Eyster to roll high. It did. Now we want to roll high, and I'll exert Nemo on the attack. That's a 10. This was a stock attack, by the way. So 10 sinks the Eyster anyway. That will go as salvage in the Eastern Pacific. Then I think I'm fine if I leave the König Wilhelm alone. We're going to go for a search. I'll leave Nemo exerted. This is going to net to a +2 because we have the König Wilhelm there that provides a -1 on because it's a revealed ship in the region. That's an 8. +2 is 10, so we succeed and collect the treasure. Let's see what we find here. Just a straight 1 victory point treasure. Alright, I'm going to use the free move action to get clear of the to get clear of the König Wilhelm, so we'll move over to the South Atlantic, where I will try to take a rest action, and I will exert Nemo. That's a 7 plus 3 is 10. So, actually, we had a -1, which is 9. But we do still succeed, so the crew does get to rest. And then I'll discard the... Then I'll discard this victory point token to gain a hull. And I could chain the second officer to get that back again, but I don't think I need to. If that was a Nemo, I'd think about it. But I think we are going to be fine there. So we'll draw another card from the adventure deck back into the event phase. The Arabian Tunnel. There's a passageway? Yes. An underground passageway that I've named the Arabian Tunnel. It starts below Suez and leads to the Bay of Pelusium. Move the Nautilus directly between the Indian Ocean and the European Ocean to pass. Place the Arabian Tunnel marker on the map to remind you that this path is now open for the remainder of the game. Grab the Arabian Tunnel, and that will go... Where does that go? It's the Arabian Tunnel marker. I think that goes on the... between the Indian Ocean and the European Sea. So I think that goes there. Yep. Fortunately, we can get there easily, but we are rolling... Now we're rolling in the placement phase. We will take 4 actions. Then we will... Oh, we're going to be placing a bunch of ships, it looks like. So we're going to have one that's going... Actually, 1 is going hunting. So we'll grab the ship bag. All right, we've got, and this one's coming out on the purple. Actually, no, this one's not coming out on the purple side. If it's going hunting, you must place it on the. If it does not have a white non-warship side, we got to show it's showing its non-purple side. If the notoriety mark has not yet placed, okay, so never mind. We've got another weird ship, the Ferdinand Max. This might be Austria. This might be Hungarian. Attack strength of 7, defense strength of 10. Notoriety if we sink it, 2 warship victory points. Then we are placing, what are we doing since there are now ship tokens everywhere? No open spaces. There are no open space. Actually, if there are no open spaces left on the map, and there are no open spaces left because we've got all hidden ships, so we immediately lose the game. In Imperialist Powers Victory, see Rule 14, how the game ends. Right, every ocean is completely full of ship tokens when a warship needs to be placed anywhere. Okay, if the game immediately automatically ended in defeat, we read that mode as defeat. So that's in the Between Voyages guide, so we need to get the Defeat Explorer out. Here we go. Pressing the limits of undersea knowledge, the Nautilus pushes too far and is lost with all hands. To this day, we still speculate about the final days and what really caused this tragedy. Nemo's incredible adventures will not stir the imagination of mankind until another 60 years have passed and speculative fiction once again sails with tales of the high seas. Sadly, the world never learns of Captain Nemo, and his legacy is buried forever beneath the waves. That'll do it for this playthrough of Nemo's War. This was a lot of fun to play. I liked the story I was building in this one, and again, you guys hear me talk about it constantly, that N-word, narrative. You hear me talk about narrative almost constantly on this channel, but it really is such, for me at least, it really is such an important part of my gaming experience, and this could very easily fall as a war game. I think the first year I got this game, Jester was musing that I could have used it for my 10-game challenge list, and I very easily could have. Obviously, I didn't for that. I didn't that year, but actually, this probably would have been a year after I got it. But in either case, definitely a lot more that I wanted to do in this game. I'm curious what our finale was and how close we were to it. It was going to be our next card, which we would have been facing a mutiny. Yikes, that would have been problematic. But, and that's another thing I really like about this game, is there are actually... I'm going to pull the events. Actually, that's not what I want. What did I do with the other finales? Because of what I want to show you guys. Here we go. What I want to show you guys is that there are a lot of different finales that you can take in all of your games. So there are a lot of different adventures, and plus with the number of events that you have in the box, you'll never play the exact same game twice. Let's not kid ourselves on that. So yeah, definitely a game I'm looking forward to getting on the channel more. And this actually would be a great candidate for something else I'm going to start doing next month, but we'll talk a little bit more about that during Peeing with Phoenix later tonight. As for what else is coming up on the channel, tomorrow evening, Marvel Mondays will be back on the channel, but we'll have a new game debut on the channel as we are playing the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game by Simon. Wednesday, we're continuing with new game debuts on the channel as we are playing Memoir 44 by Days of Wonder. Saturday, we're starting a new cookbook on mystical munchies, but I'll have more about that during Peeing with Phoenix tonight. As for next week, I'm not sure what we're doing yet, but I'll know by the time I go live with one of my game videos on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.